Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am the Darkroom Vampire, and this is part 2 of me going through my record collection autobiographically. Now I have to start off with saying that last video I said that I only had 2 Vaporwave records. Well, this first one is actually the third and final Vaporwave record that I have. Death's Dynamic Shroud. I'll try living like this. I think I wrote like an essay on this album when I was like in high school because I loved it so much. And I think it's probably the best Vaporwave album maybe ever. You know, Death's Dynamic Shroud I think has evolved quite outside of the sphere of Vaporwave. They definitely have their own like show going on now, and they have one of the largest discographies of the genre that is also consistently one of the best. I don't think anyone does it better than Death's Dynamic Shroud. Like, the sampling on this record is so creative. It's sort of like the music of what I feel like is the future. I think, you know, and it's the apex of Vaporwave because it samples in a way that is unique to Vaporwave, but it doesn't do it in that way that a lot of people criticize Macintosh Plus's Floral Shop. It's not repetitive. It's incredibly creative. There's really contemporary samples, which I always love. I think Kero on Loving Is Easy. I mean, Loving Is Easy is, such a good song. It builds and deconstructs this sample from Kero, and it's really haunting at the same time. It reminds me of Blade Runner a little bit, and yes, it's got that like Orientalist flair, but this one is a little more specific. It's actually contextually like Korean. There's a lot of K-pop samples. That's mostly where I feel like they come from, although there are a ton of obscure pop music just across the border. And a lot of the beats are actually like sort of trap infused. There's definitely like a house rhythm or a danceable rhythm at certain points, but it's also interplayed with like trap sections, and I just think it's immaculately produced. Next up is Jamie XX with his In Color record. It sounds like an Urban Outfitters. It sounds like 2015 in Urban Outfitters, maybe a Zara. It's got some of those like house vibes, and it's kind of light, not too intense. But I think Jamie XX should drop more music like this because there aren't a ton of albums that have such a pop appeal, but then this undercurrent of like really well-produced EDM. I just think it's really fantastic, and it's definitely sort of one of the highlights for me from like this late stage, middle 2010s EDM that was like phasing out of its like popularity. Sometimes I feel like Fred Again has a little bit, or is inspired by this kind of vibe. Up next we have Mac DeMarco's Salad Days. Man, Mac DeMarco really was an obsession of mine for a while, and this next part of the collection is pretty much just Mac DeMarco, I have to warn you. You know, Chelsea showed me him through the song Chamber of Reflection around 2015, and actually one of my crushes in high school gave this to me as a part of a Secret Santa. So some fun lore for you there. Fantastic, fantastic record. Maybe Mac DeMarco's best, I don't know. This Old Dog, we'll get into it later, but there seriously is a lot of Mac DeMarco on this list, so get ready for more. Then we have Mac DeMarco's 2. Not my favorite era, you know, coming out of Make Out Videotape. I don't really enjoy Make Out Videotape. I do love 2. So many classics. My Kind of Woman. Beautiful songs on here. And it reminds me a little bit of Bruce Springsteen's record, or something like that. The cover with the posing and the font a little bit. I think it's The River, maybe, the record that I'm thinking of. But, you know, this was sort of his breakout, and I think it's such a fantastic little rock album. I don't think Mac DeMarco is incredibly famous, but I don't think we've gotten... Noah Kahan sometimes gets compared to him, but I don't see it. I think we need another indie songwriter, because Mac DeMarco gave up. I mean, the 9-hour-long album of, you know, Leftovers is nice, but I'm not going to listen to it. I told you there was a lot of Mac DeMarco on here. Yeah. The demos. I prefer his demos a lot of the time. I oftentimes buy the regular album and the demos because I think the tape hiss, the different alternate takes, the beats that don't get made into full songs with lyrics, I think all of it is really interesting to see. And I think the rough around the edges quality occasionally helps him. Like the cleanliness of the studio version just doesn't suit his sort of off-the-cuff songwriting style. And I think on some of the rougher cuts, I really rather actually prefer listening to the demo. Are you guys sick of it yet? Another one. This was an autobiographical list, and this is the point in my life in which I had a massive Mac DeMarco phase. I asked them for Christmas, I asked them for every single event, and ended up getting, most of his discography during that time. This was 2015, so really he was starting to peak, and this had just come out, 2015. I love the way he ends with these really intimate directions to his house. I think that's such an interesting touch and such a marker of his character that sort of appeals to everyone. He's such a everyman, really, and I think his songwriting on this is some of the saddest. I think it's really, really sort of simple. The synths on this, I think, they're watery, and it suits the cover a lot because it does sound like you're by the water, especially with how he samples sounds of the water near his house. It's so intimate. For me, this is a sort of bedroom pop. I think it falls into that category, maybe even more than indie rock. This has to be maybe my second favorite after Salad Days. I love the demos of Another One. It's actually a longer record. It's a more satisfying listen. There's so many beats on here that are fantastic, and I don't know why they didn't get made into songs, but Prem Plus Pickle, Reggie's First Date, the one that's just a little face. I mean, the demos in here, they're so warm. The tape hiss is so good. And I think there's even a little bit of a glitch, a cassette tape glitch in demo Heart Like Hers, or maybe it's the Another One demos. But Zadoan, those are fantastic tracks that do have lyrics and never got made into a fully, it didn't make the cut onto the final record. But I actually think Zadoan 1 and 2, maybe top 5 Mac DeMarco songs right there. Both versions, I think this is fantastic record. I like it way more than the normal version of it, and we have a beautiful red pressing, so really just glad to have this all around. This is a very, very, very special record. Finally, out of the Mac DeMarco era, Bad Bad Not Good's 3. I think I haven't really listened to Bad Bad Not Good anymore. I used to like their style of jazz, but I find it a little too clean now. It's sort of I don't know, the songs are maybe a little too tightly structured. Maybe I'm too familiar with it, but I don't know. I don't find it as satisfying as I used to. I still think this is a good modern jazz record, but there's something about the, cleanliness of it all that doesn't give to me the feeling of a really fresh live performance. I saw them live, and I think performed is fantastic, but unfortunately I wish there was a little more sense of improvisation and spontaneity on this record. We are out of the Mac DeMarco phase properly, and I don't know, again, I don't want to say that I dislike this record, but it's probably James Blake's weakest. I love the art by, is it the same guy that did the Roald Dahl drawings? I think so. It looks like it. Is it that or Ralph Steadman? Who knows? I love, love, love the design of this record, but unfortunately, I don't think it's James's best. I think the one that came afterward, Assume Form, is much better, and I'd rather have that on vinyl. But I like James Blake anyway. I bought the record, obviously. I think I got it for Christmas, but it is a good record. All that James Blake does is good, but it's not one of his better albums. Oh my god, this album. It's going to be a pain to show it because of the reflection. But as you can see, I have a special loser edition, which has a beautiful, beautiful design. We got a transparent record in this case. And Clipping is such a special band. Daveed Diggs is such a special rapper. They create these, it is a concept album where, you know, they're dealing with like themes of the slave enterprise taken to a sort of science fiction level in a way that I've never heard. It's sort of, I mean, there's a real narrative to this that is really sort of easily accessible if you just listen to the lyrics, paying a little bit of attention. But the base narrative, if I may spoil it for you, is that there's this character played by Daveed Diggs who's stuck on a ship. He's trying to escape this ship, which is a slave ship, and I think everyone else is dead on board, or the mothership has sort of taken control, and he's fighting for his freedom. He already fought for his freedom once, but now it seems that he's sort of stuck in space, so he's a slave to the mothership, kind of. And it's just, does anyone make noise rap better than Clipping? They are so interesting. I don't think it's a record you can listen to very often because it is quite intense. It samples slave songs, or not samples, but interpolates lyrics from slave songs. So it's kind of intense, but a really interesting listen. And I think if anyone is, familiar with Daveed Diggs from Hamilton, they should definitely listen to this record. Kero Bonito Generation. This is an amazing album. It was my introduction to PC music, that side of the internet. I found them on Bandcamp, and man, this is just a great record. I don't think pop music has ever been this unabashedly happy, and it's kind of beautiful to see something that is so not scared to be joyful. I think we're so scared of joy in art because it means that it's not serious. But this is an amazing record. I think the songwriting on this is so light and airy and playful. It sounds like children's music, but it has enough bite. The lyrics have real depth to them. And I just think there's nothing truly this bilingual, because the mixture of Japanese and English on it is just so seamless. And it extends to sort of the sonic qualities because it blends elements of J-pop with elements of American pop into a really beautiful exploration of the genre. And I think it is one of the best albums of the 2010s. Jaylib, Champion Sound, J Dilla with Madlib, produced by Madlib, produced by J Dilla. There's some rapping on here from a number of different guest stars. My mother got this for me at Rough Trade, and it's been a while since I've heard it. I remember there being some standout tracks, but it not being a totally consistent listen. There are definitely a couple duds in the track listing, but to see these two greats of hip-hop production come together is special, and I do appreciate it, because it really reminds me of a certain point in time where I was post To Pimp a Butterfly, sort of what I talked about, getting into more rap and the history of rap, and this was definitely one of the stepping stones for me. Arto Lindsay, Encyclopedia of Arto. Arto Lindsay is a Brazilian-American artist who produces very interesting electronic mixes with sort of Brazilian flair. So the rhythms will be oftentimes tinged with a Latin flavor, but the production is very electronic, or there's effects that you'd normally see in traditional sort of fancy electronica. He's a singer-songwriter, so he does sing on a lot of these, and it's super idiosyncratic. I don't think anyone sounds quite like he does. There's this is a compilation, so not all of the songs I'm in love with, but there's definitely a lot that are fantastic, like Combustível, Personagem, Illuminated, Simply Are. Those are maybe some of my favorite songs. If I had to make a playlist of music that really sounds like me, that sounds like who I am in an autobiographical sense, a lot of this stuff is, I think, sonically located within an American context. But this has a perfect blend of an American context and a Latin context where, I have Venezuelan descent, but I was, raised here in the States. So I really identify with the sonic sort of blend that he's playing with on this album. And I just wish he would make more music because it's been a while since he came out with a record. My mom's met him a couple times, and he's really, really a nice guy. I sort of stood back, but Arto Lindsay, if you're looking for underground artists to check out, please check out Arto Lindsay. Durand Jones and the Indications, self-titled debut LP. They are a soul band, and it's really classically oriented. It's contemporary, but it sounds like it's from the 70s. The design references the 70s. Even, I would say, the quality of the construction of this record. It's a thicker cardboard, and it's a really beautiful design. There's a bunch of good tracks on here, but it's the kind of soul that I personally can't stand of too much because it is really loud. Like I think there's a volume to the production and a pain to his voice as well that I can't listen to for too long for whatever reason. But I'd say practically every song on here is fantastic. I just can't listen to it for that long for whatever reason. Last but not least, Death Grips, Bottomless Pit, 2016. This was the album that properly got me into Death Grips because I was around for the release cycle. I began getting into Death Grips sort of contemporaneously with my Kendrick Lamar and Mac DeMarco phase. Those were really the big three for me for a while, throughout like 2015 to 2017. Mac DeMarco, Death Grips, and Kendrick Lamar were really a lot of what I listened to. The Bottomless Pit I was actually around for the release for. And when you're around for the release of something, it makes it a little more special. I wasn't around for the hype of Money Store or No Love Deep Web, the whole charade that followed that. But I think Bottomless Pit, maybe I'm biased because of it, but is absolutely one of their best records. I don't know why it gets compared to the Money Store. I think it's a lot cleaner. I think it's a lot maybe poppier for that. And I would recommend it to anyone looking to get into them because it has that perfect dose of like verse, chorus that they follow. And it's got, rap elements, although I've never liked to call them rap or hip-hop because I think that's a little racially inclined, given that MC Wright is black. I feel like a lot of the music that they make is more experimental than what usually gets called hip-hop. And production-wise, although they do sample things in a way that's maybe reminiscent of hip-hop, I think they're taking more from even Crystal Castles than anyone, in that sphere. I think maybe his delivery, has a rap inflection occasionally, but I wouldn't call it hip-hop or rap music. And this album definitely proves that because the guitars on it are heavy metal. This is maybe one of their heaviest albums in terms of guitars, and compared with Jenny Death as well. Jenny Death has a lot of guitar. Beautiful gatefold. I love their design. This reminds me so much of junior, senior year of high school, walking to the metro early in the morning to catch the bus. And fantastic cover. I love Death Grips to death. If this was sort of the beginning of my Mac DeMarco era in this record, this is the beginning of my Death Grips era. I absolutely love them for years, and I still love them, but I sort of overplayed them even. Like, now I can't listen to their music because I've listened to it so much. But yeah, I think those are 15 records. I hope that was fun. Subscribe, like. There's going to be a part 2 eventually. And I'm sorry if I stressed you out with my knife. I just get fidgety and I have to touch something. And it's also kind of cool. Spider-Man. I can't do any tricks. I'm going to cut myself. Bye.